2019, I made a resolution to visit more countries. And as I'm living right now in Moscow, I decided why not visit some of the countries which are close by? Not Spain, not France. Why not visit some of the former Soviet Union countries? So for January, I decided I'm going to visit Kiev. So here I am today in January, the first city on my list of places to visit in 2019 to tick off Ukraine. Also, as part of this New Year's resolution, I've decided I'm going to make videos from each of these countries, former Soviet Union countries, as sort of a travel guide for Westerners, including stuff about the language, stuff about the currency, stuff about where to go, what to see, things like that, what to do, what not to do. And here, while I'm in Kiev, what's a better way to kick off this video than Maidan, Independence Square. So yeah, let's go. Kiev tourist guide. So of course, the first thing you have to see in Ukraine, actually in Kiev, is Maidan Independence Square. Maidan is a huge square right in the center of the city. We see the huge monument here, the Independence Monument, and there's actually lots of monuments dotted all around the area of the square, but there's also lots of good historical buildings with some importance. And I'm here standing on like a overlooking platform they have here, which you have to walk up a little bit of steps to get to, and it gives you a really nice view of the square and everything that's in it. So if we just look around here, we see here this old building here is a music school. I think it's named after Tchaikovsky. Over here we see another building here. Sort of reminds me of St. Petersburg a little bit, that style of building. And if you look further along, actually this middle section here, I don't know how to put my finger on the camera. Yeah, here is like actually a shopping center underneath. But yeah, this is the first place really anyone should go when they come to visit Kiev. The center of history, both ancient, old and modern, of course being the site of the Euro Maidan protests really not so long ago. If you Google it, you'll see lots of photos. Maybe I can find some copyright free ones to put on so you can see what this is like. So yeah, the first place to come visit when you're in Kiev, Maidan Square. So I'm here now in the grounds of one of the must-see places here in Kiev, St. Sophia's Cathedral. We can see it right behind me with the green and the golden domes. It's a real beauty. It was voted by Ukrainians as one of the 7 wonders of Ukraine, and it's definitely a must-see if you come to Kiev. It was built originally in the 11th century, but obviously it's gone through major reform and differences since then. But it's a real symbol of the Kievan Rus, the founding of Russia, the founding of Ukraine, and the area we know today all comes from the Kievan Rus. And yeah, it's a really great place and you really must visit. This is a complex with many, many, many buildings, not just a cathedral. This building you've been seeing behind me is the residence of the Metropolitan of Kiev. I would see around, we see art galleries. What's this behind me? This here is the refectory, and they're all surrounding the main building, the cathedral, the beautiful cathedral. Over here there's even a bread factory. And in the back you see the big bell tower. This is a very popular attraction too in Kiev as part of this area. You pay a small sum of money, you can climb to the top and you have a really great view of Kiev for your photos. One thing I must point out here is just how cheap it is to come in here. To get into the grounds costs only 20 Ukrainian. That's 50p. That's what in rubles? Something like 60 rubles. It's incredibly cheap. Actually, I'll show a price list now, right here. Yeah, it's incredibly cheap, and it's a really great place to come. It's really beautiful, and inside the church, of course, is really beautiful too. But I'm not going to film inside there. I highly recommend it. If you come to Kiev, come into these grounds, go up the bell tower right here, go into the church. There it is, the bell tower. There's the church. I highly recommend it. Something to do in Kiev, St. Sophia's Cathedral. And also a quick extra thing about this cathedral, if you look at the Ukrainian money and you look at the one that's worth 2, it's a note. It has this cathedral on that note. I'll show that right here. If you come to Kiev in the winter around Christmas time, once you've finished being in the cathedral, as I've just shown you right behind, right outside, there's a big Christmas market. You can hear music playing, you can see lots of people around, lots of stalls. They seem to be selling lots of hot food, everywhere selling mulled wine, Glintwein as they call it. Yeah, it's a really cool area with a nice atmosphere, and this is the place I've seen by far the most people since I've been here in Kiev. Lots of kids, lots of families. Yeah, a really nice area with a really interesting vibe, like a normal European Christmas market. In fact, I think I'm going to come back in the evening when it gets a little bit darker and see what it's like in that sort of atmosphere when the lights get turned on. But yeah, if you come here in the winter, something definitely to do is to check out this Christmas market right outside the cathedral. I ended the Christmas market section just there, but what I didn't realise is that it's not actually near just that cathedral over there. It stretches all the way to this cathedral, which I'm actually going to show you next. The whole path from here to there is a Christmas market. I got myself some mulled wine. I'll show you a little bit of this Christmas market. Obviously over here, different foods, meats. Lots of meat. You see lots of kebabs and stuff like here. Over here it says shashlik. That's like barbecued meat, and everywhere says Glintwein, mulled wine. Everywhere I'm looking, I'm seeing more different types of food. It's mainly meat, mainly mulled wine, and they all have hundreds of different options of things you can have, different flavors of mulled wine. I've just gone for the classic one, but they have them with lots of different fruits. Over here you can see the menu here in Ukrainian. It's not really good for foreign people, but what do we see? We see shashlik, that's barbecued meat. We see hachapuri, the dish from Georgia. Kolbaski, we see sausages. Plov, the Bulgarian dish. I think it's Bulgarian. So yeah, over here there's lots and lots of different food. It's a really cool area with a nice Christmas atmosphere, with hundreds and hundreds of people, a lot more than I saw before. Groups of people. It is a weekend here, it's a day off work, so nice place for people to come visit. So yeah, even though I ended my Christmas market section before, here's a little additional bit because it's longer than I even imagined. And now we're going to this cathedral right here. As promised in the Christmas market, we've now arrived at another landmark in Kiev, St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery, and we'll take a look inside in a minute. This looks like a very old monastery, very old cathedral, but in fact it's very, very new. It was rebuilt in 1999 after the independence of Ukraine in 91. There has been some sort of monastery or cathedral here since the 11th century, but they've been knocked down and rebuilt and knocked down and rebuilt, and the last one was knocked down in the 1930s under the Soviet Union and was rebuilt after that here in the exact same spot. It's in another very important square here in Kiev with lots of important buildings around it. Probably the two most important things to point out, apart from the cathedral, which we'll go in a minute, is this statue here, a statue to Princess Olga. Let me show you if I can. Yeah, there she is. It was very important in the Kievan Rus. And also another building behind me here, which is a Ukrainian government building. Let me try and butcher this. Ukrainian Ministerstvo Zakordnik Sprav Ukrainy, which I don't really understand Ukrainian, but I'm pretty sure that means Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. So yeah, it's in a pretty important square here in the center of Kiev, and well, it looks beautiful from the outside, so let's go take a look. As I stand here in the grounds here of this church, St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery, it's very important to note that this week was an incredibly huge time for this church. As of the 5th of January 2019, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church is now an independent church from the church in Moscow. It's a very controversial decision here in Ukraine. I have no opinion either way. I'm not Orthodox Christian, so it doesn't bother me. What's important to know is that this church was previously controlled by the Russian Orthodox Church based in Moscow, and now it's completely independent. And this is the main church now of the Ukrainian Orthodox religion, with its beautiful golden domes on the blue cathedral. And yeah, well, what an amazing time to be here in Kiev on this week, Christmas week. Very important for Orthodox Christians, and for Ukrainians, a very important time as the first week of the independence of the new autocephalous church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. I've just been inside the cathedral to take a look at the beauty inside there. It's all golden. It's really an incredible thing to see. I highly recommend anyone who comes to Kiev take a look inside this beautiful church. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take photos or videos, so maybe after this video you'd like to Google image what it looks like inside. That's probably a good thing to do. And yeah, if you want to come to Kiev, see a beautiful church, both on the outside and on the inside, and really take a look at one of the headquarters of one of the newest independent Christian religions, Christian sectors in the entire world, come here to Kiev, St. Michael's Golden Domed Cathedral. The next place you must go on your visit to Kiev is another church, a beautiful church. This one right here, St. Andrew's Church. St. Andrew's is a completely different style to the last two churches we saw, but it's very beautiful. It stands on a hill overlooking Kiev, and I can't recommend it more. It's bright green. You can see at the top the dome is quite a bit different to what we've seen previously in Kiev. Has huge doors, nice windows. It's definitely somewhere worth going. One of my favorite things to do when visiting places in Eastern Europe is looking inside churches. They're some of the most beautiful places in the entire world, and in Kiev is absolutely no exception. And this area too, which this church sits in, is quite an interesting area. Over here we have the National Museum of Ukraine, this grey building there. For me, it looks more like a government building than a museum. And over in this direction, there's lots more government buildings actually over there, including the British Embassy. So yeah, another tip from me: you're coming to Kiev, you want to see something? Where is it? There, St. Andrew's Church. If you haven't had enough yet of churches, I recommend you come to one of the most beautiful places in the whole of Kiev. And in fact, my favourite place in this city, especially in the snow, Kiev Lavra, the Ouspensky Cathedral. This is just an incredible complex with amazingly beautiful buildings, but the main cathedral in the middle, the Ouspensky Cathedral, is definitely the most beautiful thing I've seen in this city, and I highly recommend it to everybody. Take a look. Just look at those incredible golden domes right there, and the attention to detail they've put all along the front. It's just absolutely stunningly beautiful, and I totally didn't expect it when I turned the corner into this area this afternoon. The price of entry into the whole complex, where you can see everything from outside, including this big bell tower and all the buildings surrounding, is only 30 Ukrainian. So incredibly cheap. There are extra additional prices for if you want to go into certain things like the church, like the tower, or the one thing that I really recommend the most that anyone should go inside are the caves. This church is most famous for having an underground catacomb cave-like system, which is incredibly fascinating, very interesting for anybody visiting Kiev who's probably never seen anything like it. And what I recommend, if you come here, you come into the grounds, you walk around, you see the church, but the thing, you go inside. If you've only got time to go inside one thing, definitely the caves. From the grounds of this beautiful cathedral, there's also a big viewing platform. Because the cathedral is on the top of a hill, you have a really great view over the city, over a ton of churches, and even the motherland statue, which we're going to visit next. Take a look right now. So I don't want this video to go on forever, so I'm going to point out one final thing I think everybody who comes to Kiev must see. And I'm going to choose the Rodina Mat statue, the motherland statue. Motherland statues are not this common in the former Soviet Union. There's a big famous one in Volgograd, for example, and there's also a big one at the top of a hill in Tbilisi. Now this one here was built in 1981 on the top of the Lavra hill next to the monastery, which I just showed you. And it's part of the World War II monument here. So because it's part of the World War II museum, you'll see it's in a park with stuff like cannons and tanks, and it's all part of a complex dedicated to the efforts of Ukrainian and Soviet people in the battles during the World War II, which Ukraine really suffered during. But one cool thing to notice about this area and Rodina Mat in general is that if you look around the city compared to somewhere like Moscow, Kiev has been completely decommunized. It was following laws following the fall of the Soviet Union. Hammers and sickles were taken down, Lenin statues were taken down, but here in this World War II park, there was made an exception. The Ukrainian law says that all Soviet and communist stuff needs to be taken down, except if it's in relation to World War II. So this park, this World War II memorial park, is absolutely ridden full of Soviet iconography, things like that. And the main statue in the middle is no exception. People have talked about decommunizing it, taking down the hammer and sickle, but it's still there, and I think it'll stay there for a while. It's a really important part of the statue, and the Soviet Union was also such a huge part of the Second World War that you can't remove the Soviet Union and just leave it as Ukraine. As you see behind me in this park where the statue is, as you can see there, we can see tanks, a whole line of tanks here, and this is the museum here. So if you want to come to this statue, you want to see the Rodina Mat statue, which I highly recommend. If it's a really cold day like today, maybe you'd like to go in the museum to get warmed up too. But how to get to all these places? Well, my suggestion is the Kiev metro system. It's very easy to use, and it's worth it to have a look at some of the beautiful stations. Although nothing on the Moscow metro, some of the stations are really something. This is one of the most famous, Zolota Vorota, Golden Gate. It was opened in 1989 and has 80 large mosaics on the walls and ceilings depicting various grand princes, saints and other people from Kiev history. The price of one ticket is 8 Ukrainian, which is 19 Russian rubles or 30 US cents, and in my opinion, a bargain. This station, Holosova, is a nice example of the newer stations. However, this is my favourite station, the Dnipro. Outdoor on a bridge with a view over the river. How beautiful. For shopping, the best place to go is Ocean Plaza Shopping Centre. It's
right near the centre and is easily accessible by metro. It has all the shops you'd expect in a standard shopping mall, but the main attraction here is a huge fish tank. The tank is 350,000 litres with more than 1,000 sea creatures and a 16-metre long panoramic view. The shopping centre even has a 7D cinema. The shopping centre hosts a sweet shop with a self-playing piano. The shop has over 350 types of confectionery, most famously the former Soviet favourite Kiev cake, as well as different chocolate bars, cookies, cakes and even jellied fruit. For more expensive shopping, the Passage in the Lipki district of Kiev is the place to go. So, you want to go shopping, but what will you spend? I collected the most common notes and coins you'll come across in Kiev. Each note has a monument and a person on it, and they're all different colours and sizes. The yellow-blue 1 note has Vladimir the Great and his fortress in Kiev. The orange 2 note has Yaroslav the Wise and St. Sophia's Cathedral, seen in this video already. The blue 5 note has an old Cossack leader and a church in a Ukrainian village. The red 10 note has another old Cossack leader and Kiev Pechursk Lavra, also from today's video. The green 20 note has poet Ivan Franko and the Lviv Theatre. The violet 50 note has an old politician and Kiev's House of the Teacher. The olive 100 note has poet Taras Shevchenko and Kiev National University. The pink 200 note has poet Lesia Ukrainka and Lutsk Castle. It won't escape your notice that unfortunately this, the pink note, is the only note with a woman. There's also a brown 500 note, but I didn't come across one in my time in Kiev. So guys, this is the end of this video guide for visiting Kiev. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe. And if you have any questions about my trip to Kiev, drop them in the comments. Thank you so much for getting this far, and goodbye.